Usually for every new animated movie that's coming out, people beg and ask us, are you gonna be reviewing this? But for this movie, nothing. No one cared, no one asked, and that pretty much says it all. Hey guys, this is Morgan with the Rotoscopers, and today I'm going to be reviewing Legends of Oz: Dorothy's Return, aka the movie nobody wanted us to review. Okay, so the story about this is actually pretty funny. So we get invitations to see the press screenings of different movies, and you know, of course, I go and see every single animated film so I can review them for you guys. And the animated movies are usually on Saturdays. So I go to the theater Saturday morning and I'm all ready and I go up to the person at the front and say, hey, I'm here for the screening. And they say, what screening? And I'm like, one second, let me check my phone. So check my phone. Yeah, the screening was the weekend before, so I totally missed it and felt really stupid. But luckily for me, there was a showing of the movie just about 10 minutes after I got there, so I just paid the money and decided to see it anyway. Yeah, should have saved my $10 because that was really, really sad. So the problem I have with the Legends of Oz movie, and basically any other Oz movie that's not the original, is that it's not the original. It's supposed to be a sequel to the Wizard of Oz movie, but they didn't actually do the first movie. And the reason is they can't, because the rights to the first Wizard of Oz movie is owned by someone else. They're not gonna let anyone touch it. This is why Disney had to do the Oz Great and Powerful, which tells a different story than Dorothy coming to Oz for the first time. And that's why this movie couldn't be a recreation of that story, because no one is allowed to do that original story. But the rights to the other Wizard of Oz books and stories, you're still able to do those. And so that's why this movie, it starts from this story and goes forward rather than going back and giving us their version of the Wizard of Oz. And so I think that's one thing that really hurts this movie from the beginning, because it's assuming that you've either seen the original Wizard of Oz, which wasn't animated, or you just kind of have to pick up the pieces as you go, and this is the first movie in I'm assuming a series of movies that this studio is planning to do, because it's called The Legends of Oz: Dorothy's Return, and maybe there'll be another movie called The Legends of Oz: The Scarecrow's Return, I don't know. Something like that. Blah, 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 lots of history that you guys probably really don't care about, but it really is important because the movie suffers because it doesn't have the rights to the original story that it kind of needs to set up what's going on. So one of the biggest turnoffs that a lot of people have mentioned to me about this movie is the animation, and I must admit the animation is definitely subpar. It doesn't really seem theatrical level, which is a shame because Disney puts out such great stuff, DreamWorks, Blue Sky Studios, everyone puts out great stuff. And so when you see something that's definitely off from what you're used to, you judge it and you say, not worth my time. I thought that the movie quality was actually okay once you got past it and you're kind of able to focus on the story, but even then the story's not so special. But it does seem like it's meant for TV animation. If this would have been a direct-to-video release, I would have been totally okay with it, but it wasn't, and so you kind of judge it as a result, which is sad for the movie because it tries really hard. So this movie, for those of you who don't know, Dorothy, she has just returned from the very first Oz, and she's picking up the remnants of her house, and everyone in the town is being forced to evacuate because apparently the government now owns their land and their homes, and Dorothy's really upset about this because she's like, this is our home! This is our home! This is where we live! We can rebuild! But there's this really schemy guy who, you know, has the deed and says, no, you have to sign over your deed to me, it doesn't belong to you, which really frustrates her. And so then suddenly there's this, she gets caught up in a rainbow because the Scarecrow and the Cowardly Lion, who's not very cowardly anymore, and the Tin Man, they're in Oz and they need Dorothy to come back to save the day. So they concoct this rainbow that comes and meets Dorothy, and she's really confused, like, what the frick is this rainbow doing right in front of me? She steps into it and it transports her back to Oz. And this is where the story begins. So the movie and the narrative proceeds just the same way as the Wizard of Oz does, where Dorothy, she starts out alone, and then she picks up a friend, and here's another sidekick and another sidekick. So by the end of the movie, she has about 4 people who are following her, who are now her best friends, and they're gonna save Oz. This time, Oz is being toyed around with by a jester who happens to be brother of the Wicked Witch of the West. I actually liked this villain a lot. I thought he was funny, I thought he was really good, he was something different. Basically what he was doing is he would take all of the key people in Oz, like Glinda and the mayor or whatever, they're like all these really important figures. So he got the broom from the Wicked Witch of the West, and then he had this magical orb, which isn't really explained, but he puts it on top of the broom, creates this like wonderful scepter that like does his bidding and all this magic. It kind of worked. It made sense at the time. So what he does with this is he turns all of these, figures of Oz and he turns them into marionettes. And they're in his collection, kind of in these display cases, and they're just sitting there like this, and basically they're stuck there forever. So Dorothy, it's kind of her job to save Oz and to defeat the jester and to bring Oz back to its happiness and make sure that all these crazy marionette people turn back into normal humans. So the songs. This is actually a musical, if you didn't know, and a very poor musical at that. Bryan Adams does the music, and the music sounds very Bryan Adams. So if you love Bryan Adams, then you'll love this soundtrack. And they got Lea Michele to play Dorothy, and it just didn't work for me. Lea Michele is super powerful in how she sings, and so there's this one part where Dorothy's singing at the very beginning, and the animation just didn't match the voice. She was kind of belting out this song, and the character was like, it just didn't match to me. I'm like, wow, can you put some expression in her face? Because she's belting out this power ballad. Come on. Yeah, so the songs really were lackluster. Nothing stood out to me. They sing a song about making a boat, for heaven's sakes. There's this old tree that's like an Ent from Lord of the Rings, and he's just going to sit there and rot and mold, and he says, I'm just going to be here and be nothing. I want to help. And so they cut him down. This is like the Giving Tree, right? They cut him down, and then a song proceeds forth where they turn him into a boat, and it's... you should see the movie just for that, because you're gonna be like, what the heck is happening? So yeah, build a boat. Other than that, I couldn't hum you any songs. I couldn't tell you any of these songs. Very memorable. Don't waste your money downloading them on iTunes. Not good. I know they tried to spin it with Lea Michele, like, ooh, we got Lea Michele, she's so awesome, but no. Okay, I hate to admit this, but I fell asleep in the movie. I don't know if I was really tired from the night before or the movie was just that bad. Maybe both, maybe the latter. I am a huge animation addict, so the fact that I fell asleep during this movie means that it was really, 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 really bad. And I feel bad because, come on. One thing I really loved was the China doll. I thought her character was stupendous. She was my favorite, and then the Joker, but she was a diva, she was hilarious, she was a porcelain princess. I loved everything about her. I loved her arc. Really good. So she's definitely the highlight of this movie for me, above Dorothy, above the songs, obviously, because those are pretty low. But yes. I love in animated movies the look of porcelain. Like I think of Bo Peep in Toy Story, and then I think of the China doll in Oz the Great and Powerful. Just they look so cool, and it's such an easy thing. I think it's one of the more easy things to capture in animation. So I did a really good job, and that's why I was so drawn to her, because she was just great. So speaking of the animation again, the studio that animated this is the same studio that helps with the Tinkerbell films, which is really weird because the Tinkerbell films are so beautiful. And to me, the Tinkerbell films, since they're direct-to-video, I imagine their budgets can't be that big. And this movie is theatrical, so it should have a higher budget than the Tinkerbell, but why does the Tinkerbell look better than this? I don't know, that's the conundrum of the day. So yeah, this movie was special. I mean, if I were to describe it in one word, it's let's build a boat. Great. I really do think kids will enjoy this. This would have been okay being direct-to-video. I'm giving this movie 2.5 stars, maybe 2. I don't know, I've been on the fence about it all day. 2 stars? Maybe 2 stars? Yeah, let's just give it 2 stars. Sorry. I know 2 stars for me is a big deal, but I fell asleep. If you want to see this movie, good luck, because it came out about 2 or 3 weeks ago in the US, so I'm pretty sure it's probably not in theaters anymore by the time this video comes out, considering how poorly it did in the theaters. It ranked, in its opening weekend, it came in 8th. 8th! It had single-digit revenue, and Rio 2 was better than it. And Rio 2's been out forever, like a month. That's a long time in movies, unless you're Frozen and you just keep going on and on and on and on. Anyways guys, if you've seen this movie, give me a review in the comments below. How many stars would you rate it? Thanks for watching guys. Until next time, I'm Morgan and this is the Rotoscopers YouTube.